There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from work. It comes from being careful inside your own family. You walk in and your body tightens. You choose your words. You soften your truth. You learn to manage the atmosphere like it's your job. You call it keeping the peace, but your nervous system calls it prolonged alertness. And when you live like that long enough, you don't just lose energy, you lose your center. The Stoics would name this, without drama, peace is not a feeling. Peace is a policy, a standard you protect. You cannot control their personality, their moods, their approval, or their storms, but you can control access. Who gets a key to your mind? Who gets a vote in your self-worth? Who gets to shape your future with their reactions? So here is the honest question. Are you protecting the image of family, or are you protecting you? Because love is not permission, blood is not a contract, and boundaries are not rebellion, they are sanity. They are the quiet act of refusing to abandon yourself just to keep a room comfortable. In this episode, we're going to name 9 toxic behaviors that quietly destroy your peace when you tolerate them, especially around the people you were told you must endure. And for each one, you'll take away a simple if-then rule you can use in real moments when your old patterns try to take the wheel. If this hits something real in you, like the video and subscribe, and keep a note nearby, even if it's in your phone. This isn't entertainment, it's training. Number 1. Intimidation through anger. There is a silence that drops into a room right before someone explodes. You feel it in your body first. Your chest tightens. Your shoulders rise. You start scanning their tone, their steps, their face. You choose your words like you're walking through glass, and without realizing it, you shrink because you've learned that shrinking is safer than being seen. That is intimidation through anger, not just yelling, not just outbursts, but volatility, unpredictable emotion used like a weapon, a storm that teaches everyone else to live on forecasts instead of values. You stop asking, "What do I believe?" and you start asking, "What mood are they in today?" And slowly your life becomes reactive, not intentional. Marcus Aurelius wrote about keeping the mind like a fortress, not to shut the world out, but to keep your inner life from being occupied by chaos. Epictetus reminds you, their anger is not within your control. Your response is. And the moment you stop treating their volatility as your responsibility, you take your power back. Psychologically, your nervous system learns freeze or fawn. You think you're being nice or mature, but it's survival. It's your body trying to stay safe by disappearing. So here is the rule. If someone uses anger to intimidate me, then I pause, slow my breath, and step away from the conversation until safety returns. Identity shift. I don't negotiate with volatility. Affirmation. I protect my peace quietly. Number 2. Control through obligation or money. It often begins with help, tuition paid, rent covered, a favor given during a hard season, and at first it feels like support, relief, gratitude. But then the sentence appears, "After everything I've done for you." And suddenly the gift changes shape. What was offered freely becomes a leash. Your choices need approval. Your boundaries feel like betrayal. Your independence is framed as disrespect. The help was never just help. It came with an invisible receipt. This is control through obligation or money. Not loud, not forceful, but heavy, persistent, designed to remind you that your life is a debt still being collected. Seneca warned that a true gift is given once and then released. The moment a favor is used to command obedience, it stops being generosity and becomes ownership. Gratitude, in Stoic terms, is an inner posture, not a lifelong submission. Psychologically, this creates a debt-shame loop. You fear being labeled ungrateful, so you silence your preferences. You delay your growth. You abandon your own judgment to keep the peace. Over time, you don't even ask what you want. You ask what will keep the account balanced. Here is the correction: calm, clean, non-dramatic. If someone uses obligation or money to control my choices, then I separate gratitude from ownership and decide according to my values, not pressure. You can appreciate what was given without surrendering your future. You can say thank you without saying yes forever. Identity shift. Gratitude doesn't equal obedience. Affirmation. My life is not a repayment plan. Support should give you wings, not handcuffs. Number 3. Emotional manipulation. Sometimes the control isn't loud. It arrives quietly, wrapped in guilt, a long silence, a heavy sigh, a passive "fine, do whatever you want," said in a way that clearly means the opposite. No argument, no explanation, just emotional pressure hanging in the air waiting for you to give in. This is emotional manipulation. It works because it doesn't attack you directly, it pulls you instead. Think of it like a hook hidden in soft bait. The moment you bite by over-explaining, apologizing, or chasing reassurance, you get pulled into their emotional current. Your choices stop being about truth and start being about relief. Epictetus gave us a crucial distinction. An impression is not a command. A feeling, a look, a silence does not require your obedience unless you give it assent. The manipulator depends on you confusing discomfort with obligation. Psychologically, this pattern is reinforced through inconsistency. Warmth appears just often enough to keep hope alive. Then it disappears. Your nervous system learns to chase approval the way the brain chases reward. You're not weak for feeling this pull. You're conditioned, and conditioning can be undone. Here is the practice. If someone uses guilt, silence, or emotional withdrawal to control me, then I do not explain myself in panic. I pause, I breathe, and I respond later from clarity, not pressure. You stop negotiating with feelings that aren't yours. You stop trying to fix discomfort that was designed to control you. Identity shift. I choose clarity over guilt. Affirmation. I respond, not react. Because the moment you stop taking the bait, the hook loses its power. Number 4. Conditional love. There is a kind of love that feels warm until you step out of line. Affection when you play the role. Approval when you agree. Silence or coldness the moment you speak honestly or choose yourself. So you learn to split in two. One version that is acceptable, one version that stays hidden. This is conditional love. Love that turns on only when the right button is pressed, like a light that works but only under strict conditions. And over time you stop asking who you are. You ask who you need to be to stay connected. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the value of a person is measured by the things they choose to care about. When approval becomes what you care about most, your dignity is quietly placed outside your control. You begin to trade authenticity for affection and self-respect for reassurance. Psychologically, this cuts deep because attachment is wired for survival. When love is withdrawn, the nervous system reacts as if something essential is being taken away. Your brain doesn't register disapproval, it registers threat. And so you adapt, you shrink, you perform. You abandon parts of yourself just to keep the connection alive. But here is the correction. If love only appears when I meet expectations, then I stop bending myself to be loved and begin recognizing myself first. You don't have to earn your worth. You don't have to audition for belonging. The moment you stop chasing approval, something powerful happens. You return home to yourself. Identity shift. I am not earned. I am worthy. Affirmation. I allow love without conditions, starting within. Because real love doesn't demand your disappearance. Number 5. Blame shifting. You bring up something that hurt you, calmly, clearly, and somehow minutes later, you're the one apologizing. They raise their voice, deny the facts, twist the sequence, and suddenly the conversation ends with you feeling guilty for even speaking. You replay it afterward, wondering if you imagined the whole thing, if you overreacted, if maybe it really was your fault. This is blame shifting, a quiet refusal to take responsibility that turns every conflict into your burden. It's like arguing inside a warped mirror room. The angles are off, the reflections are distorted. No matter where you stand, the truth bends just enough for them to avoid looking at themselves. Epictetus warned against giving others the power to define your judgment. The moment you let someone else decide what is real for you, you hand over your inner authority. Responsibility belongs where actions belong, not where pressure points are applied. Psychologically, this works through repetition. Small distortions repeated often enough become doubt. You start second-guessing your memory, editing your words, softening your needs before they're even spoken, not because you're dishonest, but because you're trying to survive confusion. Here is the correction. If someone shifts blame and avoids responsibility, then I stay with observable facts, not emotional bait, and I end the conversation when reality is being distorted. You don't need to convince someone who benefits from misunderstanding you. You don't need to carry weight that isn't yours. Identity shift. I don't carry what isn't mine. Affirmation. Truth is my anchor. Clarity ends arguments that honesty never could. Number 6. Boundary violations. It doesn't always look aggressive. Sometimes it looks like concern, advice you didn't ask for, questions that go too far, a hand on your phone, an opinion placed directly into your decisions as if permission was never required. This is boundary violation, not a single moment, but a pattern of intrusion that teaches you your inner life is public property. Think of your boundaries like a door. Healthy people knock, they wait. They respect the answer. Toxic people walk in, rearrange the furniture, and act offended when you notice. And over time, if you keep the door open to avoid conflict, you forget that it was ever yours to close. Marcus Aurelius warned us to guard the gates of the mind, not to isolate but to choose what enters, because once everything has access, nothing inside remains ordered. Psychologically, people-pleasing rewires boundaries into guilt. You're taught that saying no is selfish, that privacy is secrecy, that independence is rejection. So instead of seeing boundaries as a right, you experience them as something you must apologize for. Here is the correction. If someone repeatedly crosses my boundaries, then I state it once, enforce it calmly, and I do not explain it 100 times. You don't owe long speeches to people who ignore simple limits. Consistency is clearer than arguments. Identity shift. My boundaries define my life. Affirmation. Calm firmness is my power. A closed door is not hostility, it's order. Number 7. Emotional neglect. It's subtle, and that's why it lasts so long. They remember you when you're useful, when you're strong, when you're solving something, but when you need support, the response is light, delayed, or dismissive. You'll be fine. You're strong. And the conversation moves on. This is emotional neglect, not cruelty, not attack, absence. It feels like living in a house with everything furnished but no warmth. The lights work, the doors open, but no one really sits with you when it matters. So you learn to stop asking. You tell yourself you're independent. You handle things alone. You become capable, too capable. Seneca wrote that real connection is mutual, not perfectly balanced every day, but alive on both sides. A relationship where presence only flows one way is not stability. It's depletion disguised as peace. Psychologically, emotional neglect often creates hyper-independence. You grow strong early because you had to, and strength becomes your armor. But over time, armor turns into distance. You don't just stop relying on others, you stop letting yourself receive. not because you don't need it, but because you've learned it won't arrive. Here is the shift. If emotional presence only moves in one direction, then I reduce emotional access and redirect my energy toward spaces where presence is reciprocal. You don't confront absence, you respond to it by choosing better ground. Identity shift. I deserve presence, not convenience. Affirmation. I choose reciprocal connection. Strength is admirable, but you were never meant to be alone inside it. Number 8. Disrespect disguised as humor. It's said with a smile, a joke at your expense, a sarcastic comment followed by, "Relax, I'm just kidding," or "I'm just being honest." Everyone laughs. And you laugh too, because not laughing would make things awkward, because calling it out would turn you into the problem. This is disrespect disguised as humor. It doesn't attack you directly, it erodes you slowly. Like acid, it doesn't destroy all at once. It drips, it corrodes, and over time it eats away at your sense of dignity. You start questioning whether you're too sensitive, whether you should toughen up, whether your discomfort even matters. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the worth of a person does not come from the opinions of others, but from the integrity of their own mind. When you let repeated mockery define how you see yourself, you hand over your inner authority to someone else's tone. Psychologically, this works through shame conditioning. Laughing along reduces immediate tension. It keeps you included, but each time you laugh at your own expense, to survive the moment you teach your nervous system that your dignity is negotiable. That peace comes from self-betrayal. Here is the correction. If a joke crosses my dignity, then I name it calmly, and I do not laugh to legitimize disrespect. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain your worth. You simply stop participating in what diminishes you. Identity shift. I don't laugh at my own dignity. Affirmation. I stand for myself calmly. Humor that requires your shrinking was never harmless. Number 9. Discouragement, masked as concern. It often starts with care. I'm just worried about you. I don't want you to get hurt. The tone sounds protective, even loving, but the effect is always the same. Your excitement dims, your confidence tightens. You start delaying what matters to you, not because you decided to, but because doubt was quietly planted. This is discouragement masked as concern. It doesn't push you down, it surrounds you with fog. Fog doesn't knock you over. It makes you stop moving. You hesitate. You wait for clarity that never comes. And over time you begin to mistake stillness for wisdom. Epictetus taught that it's not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. And more importantly, we must choose carefully what we allow to guide our judgments. Advice that consistently shrinks you is not guidance, it's fear wearing the costume of reason. Psychologically, this often comes from projection. Someone packages their own unexamined fear as logic and hands it to you as realism, and if you accept it repeatedly, you begin to outsource your courage. You stop asking what you believe is possible and start asking what will keep others comfortable. Here is the correction. If someone's concern consistently makes me smaller, then I evaluate the pattern, not the words, and I ask one question. Are you offering solutions or just fear? You can listen without obeying. You can respect someone's worry without adopting it as your path. Identity shift. I take counsel, not fear. Affirmation. I move with calm courage, because clarity doesn't come from hesitation. It comes from honest movement. If you look back at this journey, you'll notice a quiet shift. At first, you were being pulled by moods, by pressure, by obligation, by silence. Then something changed. You began to recognize patterns instead of absorbing them. You stopped explaining yourself into exhaustion. You placed boundaries where confusion used to live. You chose responses instead of reactions. And with that choice, something opened. Not distance, freedom. This is the core Stoic truth beneath everything we've explored. You do not own the past, and you do not own anyone else's temperament. You don't control their anger, their fear, their disappointment, or their expectations. What you own fully and completely is how you show up now, the standard you live by, the access you allow, the authority you keep over your inner life. Marcus Aurelius never asked for a peaceful world. He trained for a peaceful mind, and that peace did not come from pleasing others. It came from alignment, from refusing to abandon himself to keep the room calm. Here is the deeper reframe to carry with you. Access is earned even in family, not through perfection, not through obedience, through respect, through safety, through reciprocity. Peace is not something you beg for. Peace is a policy you uphold, quietly, consistently, without drama. You don't need to announce your boundaries. You don't need to justify your growth. You don't need permission to protect your inner life. Sit with these words, read them slowly. I do not confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. I protect my peace with quiet strength. If one of these sections hit you deeply, tell me in the comments which one. Naming it is part of reclaiming it. If this kind of training matters to you, like the video and subscribe. And if you're ready to go deeper, watch the next video on boundaries and emotional detachment, where clarity becomes a daily practice, not just a moment of insight. You're not becoming cold, you're becoming clear.